Hi, everybody. Lots of questions over the last week about directors and being furloughed. Can you be furloughed? How much can be paid? And what are you allowed to do whilst you are being furloughed? First of all, yes, you can be furloughed, just like any other employee. The unfortunate thing is, though, you can only claim 80% under the Job Retention Scheme on the salaried aspect of your overall income. And I know for almost all owner managed businesses, that is around about £720, the rest being made up of dividends. Whilst there is an awful lot of lobbying going on from various groups about compensation for owner managed businesses, at the moment, you're only allowed to pay yourself on the salaried amount. And no, you can't go back and retrospectively change February or give yourself a salary increase in March in the hope that that will count as well. It won't. It's based on what was submitted under your payroll systems at the end of February. So what are you allowed to do? Well, if you're an employee, you've got to go home and do nothing. You can do some voluntary training work, but you can't carry out any duties for the company whatsoever. Directors, however, are different. In fact, not only they are permitted, they're required to carry out their duties as a director under the Companies Act 2006, the 7 duties of directors as they become to be known. I'm going to go through those 7 duties for you right now, leaving number 2 until last, because that's the really interesting one for you, actually, to what you're allowed to do whilst you're at home being furloughed. Okay, number 1 is to act within the power of the company's constitution. That is effectively the rules and regulations that are laid down in your Articles of Association, the document that you were given when you formed the company. You've probably never seen it since. Dust it off if you want to remind yourself what those duties are. Number 3, I'll come to number 2 later, as I said, exercise independent judgment. That just means don't just blindly take instructions from the shareholders without questioning them, or indeed delegated powers from the chairman. Make your own decisions. Take ownership of those judgments yourself. Number 4 is to exercise reasonable care, skill, and diligence. It's pretty obvious what that all is, and there's lots of definitions in civil law about what constitutes a reasonable behaviour. Numbers 5, 6, and 7 are all to do with avoiding conflicts of interest. And these are essentially going to come from whether you've got a relationship like a family member or whether you've got a profit motive, perhaps. If you ever feel that your loyalties are being split between 2 parties, you've got a conflict of interest. It doesn't mean to say that you've got to resign your position or whatever. You just got to discuss that with the other board members. So, number 2, the most important one. This is to promote the success of the company. And I am going to read this almost verbatim back to you as to what it says in the Act. So, to act in a way a director considers in good faith would be the most likely to promote the success of the company for the benefit of its members as a whole, and in doing so have regard to, amongst other things, the likely consequence in the long term, the interests of the employees, the impact on the community and the environment, maintaining a reputation of high standards, and acting fairly between company members. But the most important one for you guys that are referring yourselves as directors and want to continue doing work for the company, you can, because the need to foster the company's business relationships with suppliers, customers, and others. It's there in the Companies Act. You're allowed to continue to work effectively with your customers and suppliers and to further the interests of the business. So essentially, you can continue to doing almost all of the duties that you've been doing whilst you've been in the office. If you've got any questions on that, email me as usual on john.oddy@ascentisllp.co.uk.